Recorded Books presents The Color of the Sky is the Shape of the Heart by Chesil, translated by Takami Nieda, narrated by Greta Jung. Not there. That day was no different than any other. High school was as cruel as ever. In biology, the invisible boy in class, John, burst into tears and hid under the lab table again. He fell over on his back and cried like a baby, slapping his hands on the floor. This had happened before. John was known to have tantrums. He was way more sensitive than the average kid. Maybe seeing the anatomical diagram of a rabbit in the textbook had upset him. Maybe it was just that John was the most gentle-hearted boy in the world. High school really was a cruel place. Actually, it wasn't school, but the whole world. And like the world, class went on without pause, as if John didn't exist. He was bawling his lungs out, yet no one seemed to hear him. None of the students at the school were all that studious, but at that moment, their noses were buried in the textbooks, their necks contorted into impossible angles. It was a strange sight, since it was obvious they weren't the least bit interested in reading what was written in those books. "I must have slept funny, and this is how I woke up," said the expressions on their faces, on every face in the classroom. Everyone in school knew John was like this, and yet some kids still sat at the same table as him. It was only when John burst out crying that they noticed. "Oh, so there you are." They'd been sitting together before class started, but now they acted like he'd teleported out of nowhere or something. The kids looked at John with disgust, as if he had a highly infectious disease. Their eyes, every one of them, seemed to say, "Touch him, and your finger will swell up and itch and wreck your whole day." None of the kids bothered to move to another table, though. Whether they moved or not, it was all the same anyway. The classroom was already infected. It was strange. Although there were, at most, 20 kids in the class, sometimes even I didn't notice John was there until he started crying. When he wasn't crying, John was the best in the world. No, in the universe, at making himself disappear. In a game of hide-and-seek, not only would he win every time, everyone would probably go home, forgetting that John was still hiding somewhere. It was hard to believe anyone would notice, even the next day. In the year and a half since I transferred to the school, I'd never seen John anywhere except in the classroom, nor had I seen him enter a classroom. By the time I noticed, he was somehow already there, casting a faint shadow. Only the teacher bothered a second glance. It would have been odd not to, for all the racket he was making. Still, some students didn't bother to look at John even once, the boys especially. Maybe they feared catching the disease by looking at him. Anyway, the teacher shot several looks at John. I happened to catch a glimpse of her face and felt absolutely horrible. Her eyes squinted, as if they'd found a pesky tick living in the sheets. Then, as if to say, "I'm glad you're not my son," she turned her back and carried on, as if John wasn't there. And so, class went on as usual. John cried louder. The world let out a hard laugh. John cried louder still. On the other side of the country, President Bush was sending troops into Iraq. On and on, John went. At the same time, my idol, Michael Jackson, was arrested on child molestation charges. John let out a wail, smacking his hands on the floor as if to split it open.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?